All right, what's up, boys and trolls? And I don't know if there's any females in here, but if so, they're the trolls this time. So get out of here, trolls. But we got the Rambo and Howard video we're going to listen to. The link to the whole thing will be down in the description. We got a ways to go, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time here. If you've seen this one before, it was just a black screen while they were talking. So I went ahead and put some pictures over it. And as you know, I usually use pictures when I rant as well. So we're going to get a double dose of DSP handsomeness today. So I hope you're ready for that. And before we start, I had a random thought pop into my head. You remember the homeless guy, Sean, that gave DSP $300 a couple of months ago? What the fuck ever happened to that guy, man? I wonder if DSP treated him the way he treated Rambo and Howard. Well, I guess we're going to find out. Part one of this very sad, sad story. A fucking go.
Basically, this is a response to a lot of things, including a video posted by one Philium 2 days ago, who decided to record himself scolding us like a high school gym teacher, saying that you're immature and you need to learn how to be men.
Yeah.
So, there you go. And the main thing is, like, people really want to know why we don't do anything with him anymore. And he himself, oddly, is saying that he wants to know why, But that video that he put out, I think, is a perfect example of why. So if you really, examine it, it's a video he puts out on Thanksgiving Day, which I don't really understand. And last year, Thanksgiving, he decided to unfollow me, which caused some issues. So something with Thanksgiving, I don't know if he's eating something that doesn't agree with him. Maybe he needs to follow your turkey recipe.
Yeah, it really, I think for me, it really started with that, because not only did he unfollow, the way I noticed it was when I was on Twitter, I looked at his people that he was following, and he unfollowed both of us. And there was no really no rhyme or reason to it, which I thought was, I think that was the first shot. I'll be honest with you.
It's weird stuff. Especially when you work and you work hard and stuff, you look forward to certain days off. And Thanksgiving is a certain day, with your family and whatnot. And then to do these things on Thanksgiving, it sounds silly. It is just a day, but you're showing no concern for the other person. You know what I mean? You're going to cause shit. Suddenly you get inundated with messages, and people, while you're trying to enjoy a day with your family.
Yeah.
All right, and I thought about speeding it up a little bit because there's quite a bit of dead air, but I can't really blame them, man. I'm not sure what they were thinking when they recorded it. The fact that they had to record it, I'm sure they were hurt and whatnot, so I don't really blame them there. But in the beginning, Rambo's saying that DSP is essentially saying in his video that he recorded, saying that they were immature and they need to learn how to be men. And isn't that fucking Shawn Michaels? And that wasn't the direct quote, but that's essentially what David was saying to them in his video. And if you listen to the difference in the two, the one that DSP recorded on Thanksgiving Day, in one of them you can tell the pain and hurt that Rambo especially is going through, not so much Howard. But in the other one that DSP recorded, it's more of anger and confusion. And not confusion in an understandable way. It's confusion because someone can't comprehend what type of shitty person they've been, what type of shitty person they still are, and why people don't want to be around him. And then Rambo brings up a great point about what Phil did being on Thanksgiving of all days, man. Quote, you work hard and you look forward to certain days off, and Thanksgiving, you look forward to spending it with your family and whatnot, unquote. And how true is that statement? For those of you that work or have worked in the past, how much do you look forward to those holidays where you don't have to be at work and you can be with family or friends or doing whatever it is you enjoy? But not for this fucking guy. Holidays for him consist of trashing the few friends he has left, hoping and begging that the dregs of society want to spend the day having, quote, conversations with him, where all they do is throw money at him to get responses so they can feel like they have someone in their lives that cares about them. I mean, just let that shit sink in, man. That's what it comes down to with Phil and his fans. Let's see what's next.
People?
No, I wholeheartedly believe in that. And that's why I'm a little ticked off about this, because, you know, it's one of those things where, like, you know, you can't even trust him in terms of, like, sending a message, like a text message, because you don't know if that's going to get publicly put on, like, YouTube, or if he's going to make a video about it. Because it's something, you know, if I send you a message, I don't expect you to the next day or 2 days later or whatever make you know, during your regular vlog sessions, you go ahead and you publicly read the message.
Yeah.
And
that's a great point, because like what we're going to be doing today is kind of maybe revealing some things, and I've kind of really held against doing that, because it does make you in a sense a hypocrite to be doing the same thing that has caused you pain or caused you you know, to be pissed off. But it gets to a point, like, enough is enough, man. At this point, it's really jumped the shark, and things have got to be put out there, man. Sadly.
Yeah. Yep.
And the thing that's like, it's another thing that's sad about it is no one listens to this kind of stuff, and then, or listens to like him talk about us or us talk about him, and then goes, "Oh, these guys are fucking cool." You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
It's disgusting stuff. It's sad. It's not. You're not creating content. It's freaking garbage content for the bottom of the barrel, man, and that's what it is. But you get dragged into it, unfortunately, you know. So, you know, getting back to his video, it's really full of what's, as I said, it's an example of the problem itself. You know, it's full of what's been a long history of him saying things publicly, out of turn, exaggerating things, and or saying just saying shit that's not just not true.
Yeah.
About me, about others, man. So, and again, if people get pissed listening to this, as a consolation prize, if you really think about it, if you're a fan of Phil's, you have to agree that I did, and I know you did to an extent, everything you could to help him over the years. You know, and so much so that to this day, he makes money off of videos that we're in to this day, every day.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you know, 10 cents, whether it's $10, whatever the hell it is. He's making money off, you know, off the work we did for him every single day. And he's still finding new ways to monetize us based on that video and other things that go on.
Yeah, pretty much. You know? And then I think, I really think that, like, it's really like a testament as to what he held our friendships for, because it seems that the money was more important than us being his friend.
You know, that's spot on, and that statement's not even up for debate. Over time, it's just been exposed more and more how much Phil Burnell values money and the lengths he's willing to go to get it. But at the beginning of it, Howard says he's unsure whether Phil could ever be trusted because he doesn't know that if you send him something, if it's going to end up on stream publicly. And that's a pretty shitty thing to have to worry about. But that's what Phil's life was at that point. Anything he could turn into content for money, he was willing to do. And that's because he's untalented and doesn't have any personality or character. And Rambo even says it himself. You're not creating content. You're just scraping the bottom of the barrel to get by however you can. And how Shawn Michaels is it that Phil accuses other people of doing that all the time? Didn't he just accuse Pokemans of that recently? And don't you dare accuse my Poke Squad of anything, Phil, you son of a bitch. But he also did the same thing with Keemstar, Rich from Review Tech USA, and a whole list of other people. But here he is doing the exact same thing. And Rambo talks about how Phil was still making money off of both of them because of the ad revenue Phil was still pulling in. And as we all know, ad revenue on YouTube isn't shit, but this was back in 2015, before the adpocalypse. And that's 6 years of ad revenue since then. And I doubt Phil has been nice enough to send them any royalty money. But then again, maybe he has, and he just kept it quiet and did it out of the kindness of his heart. And maybe, you fucking trolls, you heartless trolls, get out of here.
Like, I feel bad because he doesn't know how to let go of things. I guess people like, and this happens with anything. People jam you with stuff on like Twitter, and they prod you and prod you and prod you to try to get a response out of it. And he fell right into the shenanigans.
Yeah, you know what? And we're falling into it right now because honestly,
we're
I think
falling into it right now too, because he threw a shot, and then we didn't want to throw the shot, but now we have to throw the shot.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's weird timing. Why did you pick that day at that time? And it's not like we did the show Wednesday and we were like talking shit or there's anything that has to do with them. It's like it's a attempted trolling.
Yep.
It's let me say something. Hopefully they'll respond. Then I could come back with something else, and I create a whole situation of drama around myself. And I think this is what he wanted us to do. This is why I haven't done this ever until now. Despite him, running me down on his forums, on Twitter, on his chat, and like try to do stuff on the sneak. But I catch wind of all this stuff, man. People send me all this stuff.
Yeah,
And for the most part, I don't look at it, but when things like this happen, I'll go through and see what's going down. It's an attempt to get something going.
Yeah, and he falls victim to it on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
And he has an issue, like a really big issue with damage control. Mm-hmm. Like he doesn't know how to ignore things.
Yeah.
So this is why we're in the situation that we're in now, is because of that.
Yeah.
There was no need for him to address this. He could have just let it go, and that was it.
Mm.
Quote, there was no need for him to address this. He could have let it go, and that was it, unquote. I remember Phil also saying that he had reached out to Rambo numerous times and got no response. So you have to take that into account as well, but it doesn't mean you turn a camera on and air the dirty laundry, especially when you have a fan base that looks up to you the way his subhumans do or did at that time. But back to the beginning, the clip starts off with Howard saying that Phil doesn't know how to let go of things. And we see proof of that every day. Look at how easily he just bans people in his chat. Half the time it's trolling, and I can understand not wanting to deal with that. But the other half, it's people asking valid questions or giving legit criticism. And how does Phil answer it? He blocks or bans them. He turns off comments on his Twitter. And then he proceeds to shit talk them after the fact just so he can feel better about himself. And there's Howard calling this out 6 years later, or 6 years ago. Rambo makes a great point about how the two of them are sort of falling into the same trap. Phil said what he said on Thanksgiving, and people ran to them and told them about it and kind of pressed them to give a response or to kind of give their side of the story. But again, look how different the two videos came off. One sounds like two guys trying to explain what happened and why things went the way they did. And the other is just anger, resentment, and the inability to comprehend why people feel the way they do about them. The two sides were so different. It wasn't even close, man.
The first one I want to talk about, which is disgusting, man, is money, okay? You ever told, like, you shouldn't talk about money? You ever
Oh, yeah, all the time. All the time.
This is not me complaining about money, because honestly, from my side of things, I know some other people in our circle don't agree, but I believe I was treated fairly with money. But the problem is, info that's been presented to you is not exactly true. So it's something that he says quite often. John got 50%. He got half of everything that we made together, or videos I was in with him, right? And again, Howard, like, why is this something that's said publicly?
This shouldn't have
come up with any kind of reason.
There is no reason to say this unless he's lying, or B, he's trying to save face. There is no reason to even address anything about money publicly on a YouTube video.
Yeah, and this is done way before there was any kind of before there was major problems. It's just something that's thrown out, like, oh, look, I'm a great guy. I'm giving him half the money.
Yeah.
And I did this stuff from 2008 when he started YouTube. I did this for probably a couple years for nothing. He signs on with Machinima a few years later, and I had to come to him and ask, because we're still doing videos. I said, since you're getting something for this, do you feel that I should get a percentage of that for my efforts on here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we make an agreement, which will be basically half of the month's co-op income. So what happens is he takes out taxes from that amount and cuts it in half, right? I get half of that. But for instance, like if it's March and we do videos in March, I will get a percentage of what was made in March. That does not include residuals like for months coming up. Like for instance, if those videos make more money in April or June and July, okay, like that doesn't include that. So whatever was made in April for that month, that's what I would get. It does not include streams or whatever other money comes in, right?
Yeah.
This went on for a little while. And again, not exactly 50%. If you
All right, and the video kind of starts to pick up now. We get a direct quote. You ever been told that you shouldn't talk about money, unquote? Well, no one ever gave Phil Burnell that fucking memo. You know, I don't think you can blame his dad because I think he was a Marine, if I'm not mistaken. At least I think I remember hearing that. So maybe his mother, but, you know, then again, at some point, you can't keep blaming others, man. You have to point the finger at the piece of shit that constantly does it. So then Rambo starts to talk about how much money Phil was giving him. And he asks why this was even made public in the first place. And to me, it was probably Phil trying to show how much of a good guy he was, because he was actually giving poor John Rambo some of his hard-earned money. Which brings us to one of the most fucked up parts of the video. John had to actually go up to Phil and suggest that, hey man, don't you think I should be getting paid some of this money as well for everything that I'm contributing? And this is after Phil has signed a machinima. When the gravy train is rolling in. You know, how fucked up is that, man? Dude is making more money than he's ever seen before in his life. And his best friend has to ask him if he deserves some of it too. And trust me, man, I get wanting to keep your money if you're working for it, or trying to get rid of people that are just leeching on or trying to take advantage of you. I learned a very hard lesson about that in my early 20s, but not someone that genuinely cares about you and wants to see you succeed, and you don't feel the same way about them. It just shows you this guy's fucking priorities, man. Rambo then mentions the percentage he was getting from all the co-ops and help he was providing Phil, but again brings up the residuals, royalties, and money that Phil is still making even to this day, 6 years later, and not splitting it with Rambo. It's messed up, man. But again, that's Phil's hard-earned money, so don't bring it up to him, you stupid trolls.
right before episode 3 comes out, Phil puts out a video. He's talking about Project 7, whatever, man. And he basically, it's just something he often says. He says, like, he'll like set it up. I don't mean to badmouth. Don't take this the wrong way. He says, I don't mean to badmouth John Rambo. Don't take this the wrong way. And proceeds to talk about me. Talking about how John was given the best lines. And we gave him things to do. Because basically he's upset that people were in the comments saying that, John, John's the best part of this, or things like that, So yeah, he makes the video saying John was given things to do. He's given the best lines. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a flat out lie.
Yeah.
Flat out lie. He goes on to talk about, still referencing that same video, he talks about a scene that he came up with. He's like, there's a part in the trailer everyone loves with John. I came up with that. And it's interesting because, the sentence before that, he's talking about how it's a group effort.
Yeah, and then he says that he came up with the lines or whatever.
The next sentence is, I came up with that.
Yeah, which is nonsense. And like you said, going back to what you were saying, John, this is a common theme. Yeah. Because again, instead of addressing this, amongst ourselves, he addresses it publicly, which makes it even worse.
Yeah. There's no call to me, there's no conversation. Like, hey, people are saying this shit, maybe you could say something, or there's a way to say it differently, or is this something, honestly, it's not something that even needs to be really addressed at all, because it's basically people saying, I like this aspect of this show that you want me to watch.
Yeah.
right, so now they start talking about Project 7 and the statement that Phil made about Rambo getting all the best lines, all the good parts. Now, this was before my time, but I do remember seeing these clips of Phil saying this stuff and even how he came up with a lot of these ideas and essentially saying how gracious he was being by letting Rambeezy have those roles, which reminds me of something I said recently in a video about how if Phil isn't the center of attention, he will hate you for it. And he legit still acts this way even till this day. You can't talk about topics other than him and the game. You know, good luck trying to bring up something about politics, religion, sports, COVID, etc. And you literally have a few topics you can discuss or else you'll be banned. Food, the game he's playing, Jasper Kitte, or giving him a chance to say how he really needs the help and struggling financially. You know, you can talk about that all day. Other than those topics, he'll ignore you, give you some bullshit response, or call you an idiot for bringing them up. Imagine claiming you're an interactive streamer or claiming that you do a podcast and yet you're hardly willing to even discuss anything or engage with other topics that people want to talk about. Now, back then he did this because of his ego. He wanted to be the center of attention, and if he wasn't, he had to give you some excuse or explain how he graciously let someone else do it. Now, it's 100% due to money. He steers the conversation to his gameplay or about himself because that leads to contributions for him. If people are talking about other shit amongst themselves, they aren't going to give two fucks about whatever he's saying or about his terrible gameplay. So he locks it down, man, to where that's literally all you can talk about, and it's just an extremely shady thing to do. And the fact that it's coming from his best friend at the time, well, back then anyways, and another person he knew pretty well should tell you everything you need to know about DSP.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm really pissed off. So I call him immediately, and I fucking have it out with him, dude. I tell him everything I'm feeling about it, and I'm pissed off. So to his credit, he apologizes profusely, says to me that he felt insecure, or he is insecure. He shouldn't have said it. He just got really frustrated with what they were saying, and he just couldn't take it anymore, and he had to say something, and he exploded. So he apologizes to me, and I accept it. But he never actually says anything publicly. There's no public apology. There's no clarification about, you know, what he said, how it wasn't exactly the truth.
Yep.
And then what basically happens is there's people that are his fans, and a lot of them not very bright. Let's be honest here. And they start shitting on me. You know, they come at me and they shit on me because they think, oh, fucking, you know, that's what Phil wants me to do, right?
Yep.
He wants me to do that. And again, why did I deserve that?
Yeah.
You could legit hear the pain in his voice when he said that. Quote, and again, why did I deserve that? Unquote. Yeah, that's so fucked up, man. I mean, I catch occasional shit from his subhumans, but I can just imagine how much stuff this guy had to hear. Especially back then when Phil was, quote, white hot popular on YouTube. You know, Howard seems a little more angry and kind of equipped to deal with it, but poor Rambo just seemed like it really affected him. And of course, Phil doesn't give two shits, and it ain't gonna bother him, man. So, Johnny Boy says he was pissed at Phil because of what he was saying about all the good lines, etc., and that Phil apologized profusely. Could you imagine what that would even sound like today? This guy profusely apologizing for something and admitting how wrong he was. Hell might freeze over before that happens, but old John says that Phil admitted that he's an insecure person. Now, we all know that, but again, imagine trying to get him to admit that today. And no, he can't admit that. It's your fault, trolls, obviously. But Johnson also mentions that even though Phil apologized profusely, he made sure not to say anything publicly. Now, this doesn't shock me in the least bit, but in all honesty, you should be glad you even got an apology from this guy at all. Consider that a win. But by not admitting anything publicly, Rambo talks about how Phil's idiotic fan base continued to trash him because of the, quote, Rambo got all the good lines bullshit. He even says that a lot of Phil's fans aren't very bright. And Jesus, the more things change, the more they stay the same. This could have been recorded yesterday and it would still apply perfectly to the subhumans.
So continue with Project 7, man. So you said it started to fall apart at that point. What do you think happens? Where do you
started to fall apart? And what was basically happening was these guys were working 50, 60 hours a week on getting this shit edited to try to pump it out with these unrealistic timelines. So naturally, what's going to happen is people are just going to get burnt out, which ended up happening. Couple that with the fact. And again, we don't want to talk too much about it, but couple that with the fact with money. These guys are putting all this time and effort into this fucking thing. And what do they get? Gugats. That's what they got. Because when you think about it, right, you would think, because people are, when I say this, people are going to come back and say, well, Phil promoted their channel and that's all they wanted. No. Here's the bottom line, right? You would think out of the kindness of your heart, you would go ahead, damn, man, these guys are putting all this time and effort in this thing.
It's not even kindness, it's just what's fair is fair.
What's fair is fair. Let me throw them a couple of bones. Whatever the case may be, throw them some money here and there, some percentage of the profits and this and that. So what ends up happening? John and I are talking about this, and John says, I'm going to talk to him. So what does John say? John goes up to him and says, dude, throw him some money, man. These guys, if you throw them some money, they'll continue. If not, they're going to stop. Yeah,
and that's a great point, because anytime there is a problem, I always do address it right to his face.
Yeah. So
which is not being said now.
What does he say? He has the audacity to say, they didn't. I told them, or I asked them if they wanted money, and they denied it. That's a fucking load of shit.
Okay, so
because I talked to them afterwards about it.
All right, so
this essentially boils down to a he said, she said argument. Phil says that Respect the Pack told him they didn't want any money. They just wanted exposure for their channel. Howard says he spoke to them and that they didn't say that bullshit. And Rambo seems to agree with them. Again, I wasn't there, so I can't say for sure what happened. All we can do is go off their track record. And what kind of track record does Phil have? A guy that's known for lying about everything. His whore wife, he lied. A fucking cat, he lied. Flying across the country to see his dying parents, he lied. Making a commitment to his part-time wife that he wasn't going to spend money anymore on mobile games after she moved in because he wanted to spend their lives together, he fucking lied. This clown lied about making fajitas and tortillas and pico de gallo the other night when he supposedly had some emergency and had to cancel the first stream. But he didn't order DoorDash. He had time to make all that shit. But remember, according to Phil, he spoke to Respect the Pack and they told him they didn't want any money for their work. Now, back at the beginning of it, they start to talk about how Project 7 fell apart. They mention how much editing and work they were all doing, but especially how much Respect the Pack was doing. Now, Howard says 50 to 60 hours a week. Again, I wasn't there, so I really don't know, but what I can tell you is how long it takes to put a simple video like this one together. It is so fucking tedious and time consuming. And I'm not even close to being on the same level as those guys. Like, I had a clue about what went into making a video before I started, but I wasn't aware of how much time you waste with this bullshit. Now, couple that with the fact of having to, quote unquote, work with a lazy piece of shit like Phil. And then add in the fact that these guys were making, well, what were they making, Howard? Gugats is what they were making. It's a miracle that they even lasted as long as they did. But of course, here we go again with the fact that you shouldn't have to wait for them to ask you. Just like with Rambo, you should be breaking bread already because you were making money. Keyword being you, Phil.
How to do. So I had a conversation, like Howard said, I had a conversation with Phil. I said, listen, you have to make it worth their while, man. Throw them money. And I'm not saying throw them like thousands of dollars. At this point, there was already 4 episodes that had come out, right?
Yeah.
Because we did four episodes that had come out. So I said, listen, just divvy up the money. There's 5 people in this. There's only 5 people, the crew and the whole cast. Okay.
Yeah.
The video's made a lot of money. If you look at the views, the amount of views he gets paid on views, it's like $2 for every 1,000 views that he gets. So simply, figure out how much you made off all these videos. I know that Phil spent a lot of money on props and stuff. So subtract all the costs. That's fair, right? Subtract all your costs, then you have a number, and then split it the 5 ways and throw them the cash. Yep. And offer that to them. There's no guarantee that they're going to, continue with the series, but hey, man, at least try. And that's fair. His response, they don't want money. They don't want any money after this. Based on what he says, they told him that. Yeah.
And then I asked them about it, and they said he didn't even talk to them. And this is what I mean. There's no conversation.
Right.
So and then what everyone has to realize is this is like a whole bunch of things that has happened in the past that just irritates people. Because now what ends up happening is like, do you value money more than our friendship? Because if that's the case, then why am I even here?
Right.
All
right, so let me ask you, did you get anything out of the Project 7?
First of all, we're going to talk about that. I didn't get shit out of Project 7. So
no one got paid. Now here's the thing. I got paid.
John got paid.
I got my percentage.
Yeah.
At that time period, there was a point where my car had broken down, and I needed to get. Actually, I got a used car. I bought another car at that time. So I go, Phil, listen, I'm not coming to your house because I have no car. If you want me to come, throw me my percentage from the Project 7, and I'll use that cash towards a new car. And so I got my money. But there's, 3 other people, you guys, that got zero.
That got zero.
All right, so right before that clip started, Rambo talks about one of the members of Respect the Pack was about to have a kid, and priorities start to become an issue, and the guy realizes he can't keep wasting time on this for no monetary return. Rambo then says he spoke to both Howard and Phil about it. So now we have both guys saying they spoke to him about it, but of course, Phil still denies it. Rambo then says that Phil specifically told him that Respect the Pack told Phil they didn't want money out of it. A guy has a kid on the way and he doesn't want money from the project. Sounds very believable to me. Howard then reiterates how he asked them and they said no conversation ever even happened. Not only did they not say they didn't want money, but he didn't even bother asking them. You can't make this shit up, man. As long as Phil is happy and he has what he wants, nothing else really matters. And this brings up a bigger issue, and that's that he can't pick up on social clues. He doesn't care what others are going through as long as the narcissist is happy. And this isn't breaking news. I think most of us know that he's a full-blown narcissist. And it always makes me shake my head when these subhumans tip or cheer and tell him something about their life. Like this idiot Slayer the other day, and Phil gives some horseshit answer like he really cares about what's going on with them. It's so obvious when you watch that he doesn't give 2 shits, but he tries to pretend like he's interested. That's why he only ever really responds when there's money attached. He doesn't fucking care, man. So then Jihad John then talks about how he was the only one that got paid from Project 7. And what did it take for that to happen? For his car to break down on him and for him to tell Phil that he won't be driving out there to do co-op with them anymore. Which of course means Phil won't be making money on these uploads. And then would you imagine my shock when old Jihad John says that Phil actually offered to pay him then? Out of the kindness of your heart, Philip, you offered to actually pay someone for their time and work. You are a great person. There's no getting around it, man. I nominate you for the Nobel Peace Prize or the Man of the Year award. Go ahead and book that. Whoever runs that, just do it right now. Do it, trolls.
Do with that. We don't necessarily need the money, okay? And again, it's not millions of dollars here. It's whatever is fair. It's fair. Because as friends, you would expect to be treated with respect. And you tried hard on this.
But
this is your cut.
Here's the thing.
It's just we're a team, as you said, and we all did it together. And it's not one person. It should be fair and it should be divvied up
To add on to what you were saying,
yes.
Okay? To add on to that. So what happens, right? We go ahead. We don't get our cut, which is whatever at this point. But we start showing up to your house, and what do we see? The guy starts buying figurines, starts buying all this ridiculous shit that there's no need to buy. Then we show up to his house one day, and what does he have in the fucking driveway? A BMW. So how the fuck do you think I feel, and how do you think these guys feel after the fact? Is there anything, do you not understand how this burns people when they put all their freaking hard work into this, and you're making all the money and the glory, and none of us ain't making shit?
Yeah, it's more about respect and being fair.
It's about respect, man. You have no respect for your friends, for your family. You don't give a shit about anybody but yourself.
That's and maybe that's not even true. Maybe it's not true, but that's how it comes off.
Yeah.
And that's what you're expressing to other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're not.
How do you think people feel?
You're not thinking about others and how it affects them.
It's the thing is nobody's jealous. Nobody's nothing. It's when people make money. One person makes money off the back of everybody else.
And on top of it, you're putting videos out there. We go, I did that.
Yeah.
I came up with that, and it's like, no, you didn't. These guys worked hard to put that together.
Worked hard to put that together.
You didn't
yeah.
Actually, come up with that.
All right, and here we go, babe. So they mention again how no one else got their cut besides Phil and Jontron. But they show up to DSP's house a couple of times, and they start seeing all these figurines and shit, statues, plaques, My Little Pony dolls. Stuff that's cool to have, I guess, but at the end of the day, it's a waste of fucking money, man. I mean, let's be real here. But those were children's toys compared to what came next. Old Howard Gugatz pulled up in the driveway one day, and what does he see? A BM fucking W, and he loses his shit, and can you honestly blame him? He then calls a spade and says that DSP doesn't have any respect for anyone and doesn't care about anyone but himself. Now you can listen to me and other detractors say this, but how about people that were actually around this dude on a regular basis? I think they would know probably better than any of us. But let Phil tell it, oh, it's their fault because they didn't say anything to me, and how was I supposed to know, and all this bullshit. When you have a BMW in your fucking driveway, and your supposed best friend is driving some old, used, beat up piece of shit around because that's all he can afford, it should probably be a sign to you. And the clip ends with them both saying that Phil came up and made a lot of money off the backs of other people. And think about it today. How often does he say his 13-year legacy, that he worked his ass off all these years, that he put his blood, sweat, and tears into this YouTube channel? And then listen to what these guys are saying. Think about all the people that did fan art for him, made songs for him, do all these things so he can benefit. And how often do you ever hear about these other people? When's the last time he talked about Papa Vera or Popsy Colo? This guy's a fucking joke, man.
All right, so let's get back to the shirts thing, dude, because this is
the
disastrous.
Shirts. So we get together and we decide let's make T-shirts. So we all put money together, and I'm gonna throw out the figure. It was about $900.
Okay,
so
I had no idea.
$300 per person. We put the money together. Then we start figuring out, we go to these conventions, we do this, and that. The T-shirts aren't selling. So whatever, I'm going to cut my losses. I don't give a shit. Right? He comes up to us, we're talking about it. He's saying, we're not making any money. We sold only a few T-shirts. Because when you thought about it, once you sold the T-shirts, you were going to make a decent amount in profit. So we're not making any money. So we're just going to have to cut our losses. Whatever. At that point, I accept that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he leaves here. He leaves Connecticut, and he moves to Seattle. He gets to Seattle. He starts doing this Project 7 reboot thing that he's doing, making videos, doing all this stuff. Then I start finding out that he's reselling T-shirts. Or he's giving them out.
It was for his Patreon.
For a Patreon.
As far as I understand, I could be wrong here, so if I'm wrong, please correct me.
Yeah.
Anyone out there, but for his Patreon, it's you give a certain amount of money. I think maybe it's $40 or $50. Then you will get one of the shirts.
Yep.
But the problem is he doesn't actually own the shirts completely.
Yeah, he doesn't own the shirts completely, so he's giving them out. Now, I don't know if he finished giving them out, or if he managed to sell all of them, or if he sold them, or whatever the case may be. But when I start hearing about stuff like that, or I see videos of him posting that stuff, naturally, what do you think is going to happen? I'm going to get irritated beyond belief.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
I don't want to go. I'm not going to go into it because now if I go into what I'm going to go into, it's going to derail everything.
All right, hold on.
So
Stick with the shirts. So, okay, listen. So he's taking shirts that your face is on the shirt.
Yeah.
He has to physically look at your face as he packages the shirt and then mail it as he goes to mail it, and never for a second thinks, wait a minute, this person paid for a percentage of the shirt.
Yep.
And on top of that, the logos, the actual shirts were made by Andre. He's not getting anything.
Nope.
At one point, the shirts were in OJ's house.
And OJ was the one that was packing it and sending it to the people.
There was a point where that maybe we only sold one or two. So I don't want to go nuts with that. But yeah, at one point OJ was actually he had them physically. He had them in his basement for months, and I think at one point Phil just said throw them out. And we didn't do it.
And just further proof how it's always a team effort with Phil. But somehow he's always the one to benefit from it all. It's like dealing with a child. You have to do all the work, set everything up, clean, supervise. Meanwhile, baby just gets to yell and scream and make a bunch of fucking noise and still gets all the praise and money. It's ridiculous, man. So, obviously they're talking about the Project 7 t-shirts. They each put 300 into them, so 900 total. The shirts don't sell very well, and so it seems like they're all going to cut their losses on them. Phil then moves across the country to Washington State, tries to reboot Project 7, and all of a sudden, the shirts are being included as a perk to people who pledge on Patreon. Now, I've already talked previously in To Catch a Pay Pig 19 about this, and how scummy it is to do something like that. And Phil's excuse was to say that they didn't want the shirts and that they all took a loss on the deal. How are you taking a loss on something when it's a Patreon perk? Meaning people have to pledge money to you in order to get that item. Again, with the zero social clues and self-awareness, how do you think people are going to feel when you do shit like this, man? If you donated them to a shelter, or even just dropped them off in a closed donation box, even though these guys are losing money, I guarantee they wouldn't feel as upset. Because as always, you have to do the shittiest thing possible just so you can come out ahead.
No. And I'm sure his response will be something like, I don't remember that you paid, or I don't know, or you never, maybe he'll say you never brought it up to me, but you shouldn't have to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you shouldn't have to now.
You really shouldn't have to call him and go, Phil, give me the money from my percentage of the shirt.
Yeah. Now, the way that I look at it for now with this, it's a wash. And this is why it's a wash. Actually, it's not really a wash when I look at it like this, because of what he had told me. And this goes back to what we were talking about before, about him detracting statements, right? So let's rewind before Project 7. So what do? We start playing ST, right? We start buying the cabs. So you and I, and just to throw this information out there, the way this thing started was John and I decided to buy a cab, right? The cab shows up. In the middle of this, right? Phil shows up and he's like, yeah, we're at his house and we're looking at some of his stuff and I found a Super Turbo board. He has a blue one. So we're like, oh, I didn't know you had a Super Turbo board and this and that. And he goes, I don't even know if this thing works anymore. So we plug it in. We go to the house. We bring it over to the house. We plug it in. It's dead. Mm-hmm. Right? So CPS2 has a battery. The battery dies. The board dies. So he goes to me. He's like, man, I can't really do anything with it. You can keep it. If you can fix it, just keep it. Right? So what do? I got a friend of mine that lives in Manchester. Right? He goes, I call him up. I met him online, Bill. And Bill goes, yeah, just come by. I'll revive the board, right? So I throw him I think it was like $30 or $40, right? He goes, revives the boards for me, rewrites the EPROMs, gets rid of the battery. Board works fine, right? Mm-hmm. So one day he comes up and we start playing ST. I said, I managed to get that board up and running. Oh, all right, so when are you going to give it back to me? You just told me you're gonna give me the fucking board. What do you mean give it back to you? What, are you out of your mind? I just paid $40 to revive this, and you think I'm gonna give it back to you? Okay. So and then right after what happens, the t-shirt thing happens.
Yeah.
So you know what I say? Fuck it, I ain't giving you shit back. So I'm keeping a board, right? For the t-shirt, for the $300 that you owe me in fucking t-shirts.
Huh.
All right, and that's the last clip for this video, but that was such a beautiful ending. That's what you fucking get, DSP. But let's go back to the beginning of it. It starts with them saying that you shouldn't have to bring up things like this to a person. And, you know, they're supposed to know this stuff already once they hit a certain age. Rambo specifically says, quote, you shouldn't really have to call him and go, Phil, give me the money for my percentage of the shirts, unquote. And sometimes I see his subhuman cult say things like, oh, why do you care? Or what difference does it make? Or why are you upset about it? Number one, they're making excuses and trying to get around the fact that they've supported a terrible human being for years in some cases. A person that literally lies to them about emergencies and family members and losing his house, etc. And then bank leaks come out and it's revealed that it's actually for mobile games, fast food delivery, because they're both too lazy to fucking cook, by the way, and alcohol this entire time. But the reason that most of us care or get invested is because we know he's a piece of shit, but we all know someone in real life that's like him. Whether it's a family member, a friend, an ex-friend, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, man. And we've all known someone like that. God forbid you're the person like that and you just don't know it yet. And usually you like to see those people get what's coming to them. Now, in real life, you don't want to see the person hurt or whatever, but you want them to change or face some kind of reality that forces them to change their ways. But with this guy, nobody can see him in real life. Nobody can talk to him and try to get him to understand that he's a fucking liar, a scammer, a terrible friend, mobile game addict, a narcissist that doesn't give a shit about anyone but himself. And you sit here and listen to two people that actually considered this guy a friend, and you hear what they say about him, and they didn't gain anything financially from this. They came out and told their side because he shit on them, which caused his fans to shit on them. But he turns around and plays the victim and can't understand why they turned their backs on him. Or how someone could keep saying, or how someone could keep something that they paid money out of their pocket, their own pocket, to fix after he told them he didn't want it anymore. But now that it's fixed and works, he expects it back. Just like you gave them the money for their shirts back, right? Just like you gave Johnny all those good lines to say in Project 7, right? And just like you went out and bought a BMW instead of breaking bread with the people that helped you get where you were, right? And it's perfection, Phil. Because look at where you are now, buddy. You deserve this life, my very good friend, and I'd be willing to bet any amount of money that Howard and especially Rambo are doing just fine with their friends and families without your sorry ass, motherfucker. All right, and I'm not sure if we're going to do a part 2 or not. You know, this video is a long one to break down, and this was only half of it. So let me know in the comments if y'all want to see the second part, or if we should move on to something else. I had an idea for another compilation video, but I want to see what y'all have to say before I decide on it. Give a couple of quick shout outs and then we'll sign off. Shout out to Hood Hustler, twice actually. They were different amounts, so I know it wasn't an accident. He mentioned how he got the COOF last year and still ended up working from home while he had it. Meanwhile, we have to listen to this loser talk about how his life is so hard and how he works all these hours, etc., etc., and that it just gets frustrating sometimes. And trust me, brother, I know what you mean, and it's one of the main reasons I started making these videos. You know, he deserves every bit of the shit that I give him as far as I'm concerned. But I appreciate the support, brother. Always good to hear from you, Hood Hustler. Holden, no message, but thank you, homie. It wasn't a lot, man, but, you know, it helps, and I appreciate it, brother. I didn't really bring this up before, but right around the day, actually the same day that my channel got that copyright strike, the fucking alternator went out on my car, and so I was stuck at home for a few days until I had to get it replaced. So You know, when it rains, it pours, man. But you can look at it two ways: the DSP way, or realize the fact that I'm extremely lucky that people even think enough of what I'm doing to support me. So even though it may not be much, Holden, I want you to know that it means a lot to me, especially on days like those, brother. And then final shout out to Final Snort Oinky 7. And I don't even want to know what the hell you were thinking about when you came up with that name. But he sent me $20 and told me it was a drive-by tip. So let's give a shout out to the Game Trekker, and his 15 other alt accounts. And they all said thank you for the tip, homie. And it's always nice to get to support like that. Please change your name, brother. Thank you very much for the support. Again, let me know in the comments what y'all want to see next. Part 2, compilation, whatever. And we'll go from there. Appreciate the support y'all have for me. You know, whatever's going on with the channel, it is what it is, man. Thank you for having my back. Thank you for always riding with me. I will see y'all very, very soon. And as always, a fucking go.